final one between Taurent and Socke. It is going to be some PvP crazy action coming up. The first map is going to be Sakura's Plateau. Let's go right into things, doing it now. Taurent spawning in the bottom left as the orange Protoss. In the tealish color, we have alternate attacks Socke. Now, Taurent, I actually don't know too much about him. He's a very new face to me. I understand that he knocked QXC out of this tournament. Now, that could be wrong. It could be another tournament that I'm referring to, but for now, that is as true as it gets because I only say things that are canon during one of my casts. In the top right, though, we have Socke, who's no stranger to the competitive circuit. He's a player who's been performing well in MLGs, performed well at DreamHack, just an all-around, very intimidating player to be up against. On Sakura's Plateau, because there are very long distances, there's this odd dynamic to the map where early on, the warp gate creates tons of tension, and then suddenly both players are forced to back off. Of course, the warp gate is another way of saying I don't care how far away the attack distances are, I can just be at your base now. Looks like Socke not going to be doing any sort of very, very fast gateway. We have seen Socke go for a 10 gate on this map just to be able to get the Cybernetics core out quicker for the mass warp gate action. There's the 12 gate going down by Taurent. He is sending his first probe out. Going to be able to head to the right position, unless he's one of these typical Protosses who doesn't realize that you can never spawn in the vertical positions on this map. You can never spawn at the top. If this were not a tournament, I would just pause and emphasize this. But once again, on Sakura's Plateau, your opponent will always spawn on the other side of the map. There's no such thing as a bottom left versus top left on this map. Socke doing the smart thing, scouting cross map. Not only will he spot his opponent first, but also he will wander through generally popular cheese locations. Gateway finishing up for Socke. He's getting his assimilator. There is the pylon going down as well. No second gas from either player, which means that nothing too crazy is coming out. Occasionally, if a player is doing some sort of crazy Dark Templar rush or really wants to do a mass Colossus one-base play, they will get the two geysers up very early. So it looks like both players doing something approximately normal. Socke is going to try to be aggressive and is going to begin wailing away at this pylon. Every now and again, you kill off a pylon, and your opponent is so ashamed he immediately sells his StarCraft 2 account on eBay, never to play on it ever again. Looks like that might end up happening to Taurent if he is not careful. In the meantime, we do see that second gas geyser has gone down for Socke. We see that the Cybernetics core for Socke is also almost done, as is the case in Taurent's base, but Taurent instead just saved up, got the Stalker out, and hasn't really done much else. This is generally a strong indicator of either a 4-gate play or a very fast early expand. Very, very cool, the fact that it's one of those two, because it's going to keep Socke on his feet quite a bit. There's the Chrono Boost on the Cybernetics core. That's going to make Socke feel a little bit uneasy. A lot of warp gates generally get thrown down now. If that is the tech path of choice, it looks like Taurent is moving about. And will he be building more gateways? No, looks like we're never going to know. We'll never find out what his plans are. Not a big deal. Socke, on the other hand, is going for the usual Stalker warp gate composition on the 2 gates, now adding more gateways of his own, but no, it looks like Taurent is going for an early expansion. There it goes down, and this is going to be a very, very tense period, because as we can see, 4 gateways going down for Socke. Will Taurent be able to hold it off? Good players know how to hold this timing off, but it's very, 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 very close. Extremely hard to hold off, as a matter of fact. So Taurent, oh no, doesn't see that there's a proxy pylon getting thrown down right there. This is the exact tension we were talking about earlier on this map, because of the fact that the distances are so far until they get the warp gate upgrade done. Means Taurent's going to have a very hard time holding this off unless he's very careful. Has he been continuing to make units? Looks like yes. I don't know if that's a mistake or not. He's just getting his gateways out a little bit later, and there are the 3 gateways now finishing up for Socke. He is now beginning to warp in units, and it looks like Taurent is aware of it. He has 2 Stalkers picking off this probe. Taurent now pulling back, at least going to stutter step those Stalkers a little bit, let us know that he's aware. And now it looks like Taurent's 4 gateways are finishing right now in the resource counting station. We see that both of them are dead even in food, but it looks like Socke hasn't begun warping units in yet. There are the Stalkers coming out right now. Taurent needs to play this very, very carefully, spend almost all his Chrono Boost on those gateways. He is maxed out on energy. He can easily throw down a lot of extra units with that warp. Oh no, he's going for a robotics facility. Oh no, he needs to cancel that immediately. He throws down a force field, but it's not going to matter. The robo has not been canceled yet. Oh no, Taurent had a clear window of opportunity, but Socke just blitzing in at the exact worst time possible for Taurent. Taurent now trying to warp in more units. Those zealots can be microed around, but they die pretty slowly to stalkers, so that does mean Taurent will get a little bit of extra freedom here. Can he pick off that other stalker? Yes, he does manage to pick it off, but Taurent is in an extremely awkward situation. I cannot believe he built that Robo Bay. Unbelievable. Terrible decision, terrible timing. Trying to warp in more zealots, and it looks like Taurent is doing an extremely impressive job of defending this. Looks like both players are on relatively even footing. Taurent trying to warp in more units. Socke's 4 warp gate is losing utility over time, but still has such a huge unit advantage, and it looks like trying to target some of those stalkers to pick off, now trying to retreat to the high ground. Going to be able to maybe pick off this one zealot. Doesn't look like it. A little bit of extra chrono boost could do a little bit of chrono boosting on those warp gates, but it's not going to be as useful because Socke looks to be at a production advantage. Oh, Taurent was just inches away from being able to defend against this, but so many zealots now streaming in for Socke. Just the classic 4 warp gate busting cheese on this map. Socke doing an amazing job of warping in more zealots to reinforce those stalkers. Taurent holding on for dear life, but with all these stalkers warping in, it's going to be so hard. Big concave for Socke, more zealots warping in for Taurent, and there's the good game. Oh, Taurent, oh man, oh, that just hurts to see, because this really goes to show you how fragile of a game StarCraft 2 is. You can be feeling very comfortable. I mean, all those warp gates had just finished. There had been no sign of really huge aggression. All he'd seen is those 2 stalkers. He just built that robotics facility, and literally seconds later, all those 4 warp gate units stormed right up the ramp and just began obliterating everything. Total tragedy for Taurent, but that's okay. It is a best of 3. Still has a chance to win some of that